Hey everyone, can't overdo it with another video, and in this one I'm going to be ranking every piece of media that I consumed in March of 2025. Man, dude, just look at the top corner, man. You guys can see it. You know. Oh, this is gonna take a minute. I'm gonna try to not talk too extensively about any of these because, quite frankly, I don't have the energy to do that, and also I would rather save that energy for like the top 100 videos or the Can't Over Yap videos or whatever. So yes, this is a fraud video. Yes, it looks like a lot of content, but I shit you not, 9 out of 21 of these are Honkai Impact 3rd entries. So if you're a Honkai Impact 3rd fan, you're gonna like this video a lot, and if you're not, then you're gonna be skipping around a lot. The worst piece of media that I consumed this month ends up being the Divine Key. I believe it was number 3. It was Wings of Origin. It was basically a incredibly short story on a manga format that explained how Fu Hua got involved in Honkai Impact 3rd. This is going to become relevant later because, as we're going to discuss, I went through the Fu Hua arc and we went over through all the chapters. So this is basically just a very, very short telling of her backstory, specifically in relation to how she got involved in the Honkai. Moving up ever so slightly in the world to number 20, another Honkai Impact 3rd, we have Blade of the Empyrean. Literally exactly what I just said for that, minus the Fu Hua backstory. It's incredibly short, but it does have the introduction of the "our code is simple, no mercy for the corrupted," which I do think is interesting since it does come into play a little bit later as well. And honestly, that alone keeps it from last place. Moving away from Honkai Impact 3rd, but staying in the Gacha sphere, I actually played through Punishing Gray Raven Chapter 1 Graffiti Art this month. My overall thoughts is that it was mostly just fine. The gameplay specifically is very clearly inspired heavily by Honkai Impact 3rd, and I think even the narrative to an extent is pretty similar as well. At the very least, the core of it. I did like the scene towards the beginning of it with Lucia or Lucia. I don't know which one it is. I'm assuming it's just Lucia though. I did like the scene with her and her doppelganger. I thought that was really cool. I did not count the prologue separately though, and my vision is honestly kind of blurry if that was prologue or chapter 1, but either way, it doesn't really matter. Liv was a nice presence, she was pleasant, and Lee was just kind of alright. Similar thoughts about the commander and pretty much every other character. They were all just totally fine. I did like the very sparse use of CGs. I thought that was really nice because it just kind of brought the CGs themselves more to life. But overall, like I said, it was mostly just fine. Moving over to number 18, it has been a minute, so let's jump back into Honkai Impact 3rd and talk about Chapter 20, The Immortal Phoenix. Seeing Fu Hua's disciple, Lin, I'm not going to try to say her last name, I'm not doing it. Seeing her, though, was pretty nifty. I did find it a little bit strange how quickly she was willing to just immediately trust Kiana and Bronya, but whatever. Speaking of Bronya, I hate Bronya gameplay. I don't find it interesting. Kiana gameplay, though, is fun, so I enjoyed that part. I did also like when they shifted back to Fuaha's past a little bit and went through this little brief discussion between Hua and Kevin, where Kevin is basically really defeated and he just says that he didn't really care about Honkai or humanity. I thought that was really interesting. But to be completely honest, this arc is the groundwork for chapters 21 and 22, which we won't be talking about for a little bit. It basically just convinced me that those two chapters would be better than this because, again, it kind of walked so that the other chapters could run, and even so much so to the point where the ending, like, it was cool when Bronya and Kiana were like walking into the house or whatever. I mean, it was cool, but I also was just like, that's it. Like that's where we're ending it. That's I don't know. I didn't really like that too much. Moving on to number 17, I have Springfest, again sticking with Honkai Impact 3rd, and seeing how Star Rail's Linksha had an XP in Nuwa, and Nuwa got some actual content was cool. Similar to the Divine Key chapter that we mentioned earlier in the video, this was super short, but the quality was a little bit higher, so it's a little bit higher on the list. At number 16, I have a random rom-com that I decided to catch up to, Okami Wasuki Niko wo Suru. This was just kind of fun. I like both the main leads in Rina and Yuga. Basically, the general idea here is that there are these two characters, Rina and Yuga, who absolutely despise and hate each other, but both of them are actually living a secret double life, and those double lives of one another do spend time with each other. So I find the concept very interesting. The execution is mostly just kind of good, to be honest. But quite frankly, I had fun with this, so I don't regret picking it up. Moving over to number 15, back to gacha games, we have Limbus Company Intervalo 1, and this was just so much fun. It was a very, very laid back environment without very many high stakes. The whole Heathcliff getting the fucking chicken thing stuck on his head was just so goofy, and I liked it a lot. This arc was all just fun. But I'd be remiss to not mention the greatest civil war to ever grace the screens of us media consumers, the showdown between Ryoshu and Gregor, the cooking showdown. This was just so fun. I had a lot of fun with this. Moving over to number 14, getting back to Honkai Impact 3rd, I have Alien Space, another manga, who would have thought? I'm going to be honest though, I am incredibly double-minded on this manga because the entire sugar dimension thing was just stupid. Like, really, really stupid. I was not at all interested whenever that was being brought up. But literally everything else about this manga was really, really good. I really liked Himiko's content here. Seeing her dynamic with Welt was really fun. And seeing her dynamic with Mr. Murata, her dad, was also pretty good. I think that Murata himself was a fine character, not one that I'm going to be particularly thinking about after the fact. He served his purpose fine enough, and honestly, seeing the, I guess, meta Welt and Otto throughout all of this was also really neat, and I like their dynamic a good bit. Moving on to number 13, I do need to make a quick disclaimer. This is actually an 18 and up manga, so if you're not 18 and up, skip. This is going to be Monogatari no Uni, and it was actually a pretty fucking good story despite the questionable elements around it. I'm not going to spoil anything because this is essentially a one-shot. So if you're looking for a one-shot specifically of the adult manga variety, check this one out. It's actually pretty good. Moving over to number 12, I can't believe I'm saying this, I have Red vs. Blue Season 1. So this is kind of interesting, where I never grew up on Halo, I didn't really play it at all growing up, so I feel like there is going to be some level of disconnect between me and other people who watch this, because I assume that the vast audience that's watching Red vs. Blue has played Halo, so that kind of puts me in an interesting spot here. I did really enjoy pretty much every single character, I didn't really hate anybody. Griff was personally my favorite character, and because of that, he's going to be the only one to get name dropped here. But again, every other character was at least like fine. I definitely do plan to continue this. I'll probably check out season 2 sometime in April. There's not really enough to go off of just with season 1, despite having a good time with it. But I do want to kind of open up a discussion here for a brief moment to talk about YouTube series in general, because we do have another YouTube series to talk about, but we'll that one's different and we'll talk about it later. But role plays and RPs and stuff. I grew up watching some Minecraft RPs, so there is actually a somewhat non-zero chance that I'll just slip some of those in here, should I ever go back and watch those again. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Stuff like, I think it was called Minecraft Life from Rai Guy Rocky, and Parkside Prison from J-Bull. Those were the two that I remember enjoying. Maybe there's more that I'm forgetting about, but I genuinely might put those on here because I haven't seen them in a really long time, and I would like to see how they stack up outside of Parkside Prison. I watched season 1 of that like a year ago or something like that, I think. Number 11 sucks because I wanted to put this higher, but I could not justify it. At number 11, unfortunately, I have Find Love or Die Trying Till Death Do Us Part. This is the sequel to the original Find Love or Die Trying, and I want to talk about that first, because I love to find love or die trying. I am somebody who grew up with reality TV shows and reality dating shows. So having this visual novel, one of, if not my favorite medium of storytelling, currently at least, portray a death game reality TV show was really, really fun. I really like the narrative through line between the protagonist and Kat. I really like the actual setup and the construction of the narrative where it's written in such a way that, yes, you do have some say as the player. You can choose the order you get to know these characters, but you're going to get to know all five of the girls. And I think that's really, really interesting. I think that's handled very well. And I think it's also interesting that on top of getting to know these five main girls, you also have Kat, who's pretty much this unachievable character throughout the narrative, but she's also getting developed throughout the plot. And then at the very end of the game, I have to spoil now. So if you don't want to get spoiled, then go click off. I really recommend Find Love or Die Trying, by the way. The whole concept around it is just really, really fun. I think it's like $5 on Steam now. Used to be free, so that's kind of a shame. Again, it's a really, really fun visual novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. But in any case, this was where it started to worry me because Find Love or Die Trying has six, well, seven, I guess, if you count the joke ending, six real endings that the player can choose from, obviously ending up with one of the six girls in the story, either Kat or one of the wrong choices. But this worried me, though, coming into Find Love or Die Trying too, because what the hell were they going to do? And when I got my answer, I hate to admit this, but I was kind of disappointed. In order to really grasp in order to grasp my feelings on this, I think that it's important to note that I read Find Love or Die Trying a couple years ago. And so when I found out that it was getting a sequel, I was really excited, super excited. And I'd been following the author for Find Love or Die Trying, so I had a general understanding of like when this game was going to come out. And when it finally did, I binged the entire thing in like 3 hours, which may not sound that bad, but here's the thing. I did every single route. I did every single choice. My playtime was quicker here than the original game. Now I understand that this was a after story of sorts, where essentially this game starts with you making the same choice that you did at the very end of the first game, where you pick one of the girls, and then that's basically your ride or die. I think that that particular aspect is fine if the routes are different enough, if the routes diverge enough, and they really don't. And that's where my problem kind of comes in, or at least one of them, is a lot of the routes, not even a lot of them, all of the routes feel strikingly similar. I think that this is best experienced not necessarily going through every route, but instead picking your favorite and then going with them. I will say, though, that Terra got done so dirty, bro. I don't know what the dev has against Terra, but she got done so, so dirty. I actually did really enjoy her in her specific route, but in every other route, she was basically a complete nothing factor. And conversely, Violet got really great content in all of the routes. I think that the scene with her sister, Viola, was really, really good, and it was probably my favorite scene in the entire visual novel, to be completely honest. The introduction of Nera was also a pretty interesting choice. I really do like the way that they tied in that she was watching Find Love or Die Trying. I think that aspect is cool. The problem that I have with Nera is that the game expects you to like this character so much that you choose her over your original girl, but everybody who's playing this game played this game to, have that after story with their favorite character from the first game. So most of the time, obviously, players are not going to experience the Nera ending. So I think that that was kind of a weird choice, to be honest. Despite liking Nera as a character, I think Nera is a perfectly fine character. I think that the only characters from Find Love or Die Trying I'd have above her are Kat and Violet, and maybe Scarlet. I think that the product that we got was very, very rushed, and it didn't feel finished. However, like I said before, I really liked Find Love or Die Trying, and I really wanted to support the author, so I bought the supporter pack, or like the fan pack, where you just get a bunch of stuff, including dev notes. And it was through reading those dev notes that I get it. I understand why the product that we got was the product that we got. They were aiming really, really high, but due to extenuating circumstances, it just wasn't going to work out the way they wanted it to, so this was the product we got instead. Which is a shame, because, again, I really liked Find Love or Die Trying. I really wanted to like this entry more. It just didn't live up to everything I wanted it to be, and I know I sound really negative right now, and I kind of want to be portrayed in that way, but I did enjoy it. It's more Find Love or Die Trying, and looking at it through the idea of this simply being you pick your favorite character and you just get to see their after story, I think that's fine enough. But again, I wanted more. The dev wanted more. It doesn't feel like a very finished product, but it is a finished product. This is what we got, and that's all I have to say. It's going to be kind of awkward if that ends up being the longest one, but anyways, at number 10, I have Honkai Impact 3rd, Chapter 21, Wings of Reawakening. Hua and Hua had an interesting dynamic, although I think that this concept would be done better in Chapter 23 with Zila, but we'll talk about that later. Seeing Otto and Colin get content was cool, and I really liked the CG that was attached to that particular scene. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. The reveal of Fu Hua actually being a Herrscher felt like something the game wanted to be a big twist, but I mean, fucking duh, dude. And going back to kind of what I talked about with Chapter 20, where Chapter 20 basically set the standard that the following chapters would be better, this was better. I do genuinely have one complaint, and that one complaint legitimately brings this down a little bit, and that's the extra reading segments. I really enjoy the contents within the extra stories. I think that it's a really unique idea. What I also think is a unique, quirky, fun little idea is getting to read it in 0.1 times speed. Why? It's so dumb that you cannot just click the text and it just appears and then you read it and you click again. No, you have to wait. But it's so agonizingly slow. It was frustrating. And this is a problem that would plague, I believe Chapter 22 and Chapter 23 as well, which we'll talk about. But it wasn't as noticeable there because I think that there were more times where you could just skip it and that was fine. But holy hell was it noticeable here. I did not like it so much that I even put it in the outline for this entry. Now at number 9, this one is going to be really strange to talk about. We have Sonobisk, or My Dress Up Darling, and the manga ended. I've been caught up for years at this point, but the manga ended. So let me talk a little bit about my initial viewing of My Dress Up Darling, where I actually watched this as it was airing. It was my first ever seasonal anime watch, mainly because I didn't really like subbed anime at the time. I was a dubbed truther. But I remember specifically when I started watching this, Attack on Titan, I believe it was Season 4 Part 2, was also airing at the time, so I would just save, until both episodes would release. I had an Attack on Titan episode and a My Dress Up Darling episode, and I'm going to be completely real with you guys, I watched the My Dress Up episode first every time just because I wanted to know what happened. I genuinely think, and I hold this opinion still, that My Dress Up Darling has a very strong start. Equally, I think it has a really strong finish. I personally really enjoyed the ending. But the middle of the manga is so messy. There are so many characters that I just don't care about. This is a series that lives and dies by the main couple of Marin and Gojo, where when those two are the focus, the manga is really, really, really good. I think it's an incredibly strong narrative. When those two are not the focus, I just don't care all that much, to be honest. I am interested to see how Season 2 adapts, because we're going to start getting into the middle of the manga a little bit. So I'm very curious about that. But like I said, the start was really strong. The finale was really strong. And in general, Marin and Gojo are both just really fun characters. They're both probably like A tier, I think. I really enjoyed both of them. I think that Gojo is a lot more of a subtle character, and probably the character that's going to be talked about less, because Marin is Marin. And I guess I can talk about this a little bit too. Marin Kitagawa, let's talk about waifu culture for a minute. We're all gentle lads here and gentle ladies, right? Waifu culture, in my opinion, when taken seriously, is dumb, quite frankly. I don't particularly love it. But, and I mean this, Marin Kitagawa is objectively, quote unquote, tip the fedora and, brush the sideburns, objectively one of the best waifus to have ever. I think that her personality is great, her looks are great, all that's great. Moving over to number 8, I have the Disasters arc from Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, the manhwa or webtoon. I'm not reading the web novel yet. This picks up right after the Capture the Flag / the War of Kings arc, where 5 disasters are coming to Earth. Oh no! The Disaster of Questions was fine, but really what I want to more so focus on is the later part of the arc. I want to apologize as well before I even start this, because Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint has exactly one major problem for me. The names. Holy shit, I cannot remember the names to save my fucking life. Yes, it's partly because this is a Korean webtoon, and obviously, I don't know if you noticed, I don't consume a whole lot of Korean media personally. Not to say that there's none, such as Limbus Company, but for some reason, I just cannot, for the life of me, remember the names of most of the characters. So if I butcher any of the names, then tough shit. Sangha had some interesting stuff going on, like with the Olympians and the possession and all that stuff. Han Soo Young was cool, really fun dynamic with Jokja. I liked her a lot. And to be honest with you, my opinion on the arc and the series as a whole is going to come into play here, because Doksha kind of just fucking carries. I really like how they handled his development with the 5th disaster, and seeing the lengths that he was willing to go to with his promise was really awesome. And throughout this entire arc, he just had some really fun moments, like that scene where he tricked all the constellations into going into his channel, despite knowing that nothing was going to happen for it, where he told him that he would pick a supporting constellation if they reached 10k subs, when the max was set at 9.99. I thought that was really fun. Oh, and also, the whole meeting with Persephone and the whole, little underworld mini arc towards the end there was also really cool. Moving on to number 7, we have a series that I want to talk about more, but I really can't because I'm not far enough into it yet, and honestly, I'm going to be continuing to take my time with the series. But I did at least get up to the Benizakura arc in Gintama, and I just watched the movie. I did not watch the episodes for this. First of all, at the very beginning of the movie, Sogo Okita showed me why he's one of my favorite characters. He's just such a fun character. He's probably my second favorite behind Gentoki. The fight with the crazy guy was pretty cool as well. I'm talking about towards the start of the movie where Gentoki got really badly injured. I thought that was really neat. The big thing for me is a very small moment around the halfway point of the movie where Otai is looking after Gin, and Gin leaves to go help the lady of the brother swordsman blacksmith guy who made the Benizakura. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. But what I really like here is when Otai leaves to go bring him a Jump comic, he obviously heads out right after her to go help the other people and leave now that she's out of sight. But when he does, he realizes that there is an umbrella and clothes waiting for him with a little letter that basically says, hey, don't die. That's pretty much what the letter says. I know it doesn't. It's something about, bring the umbrella back. But the idea here is that Otai realized that Gin was going to be leaving regardless. So I just thought that was a really cool moment. Although, again, the ending of the movie was also just genuinely really great. The whole ending quote about, this quote-unquote being the end, just really funny. I enjoyed that as well. Getting to see Gintama in a widescreen format for the first time was just cool, and overall the animation was a little bit better, and I really liked the final fight, although to be completely honest, that whole episode stretch, I believe it was 39 to 42, is all better than Benizakura in my opinion, specifically 39. I think that it was pretty similar in quality level to that one Kagura arc, that 40 to 42 stretch, but episode 39 is still my favorite part of Gintama. Also, I just want to really quickly bring this up. In order to get to the Benizakura movie, I watched episodes 51 to 57. Not going to talk about them here, but I will say, that one mom character, dude, holy shit, I hated her. One of my least favorite characters in anything ever. She is so fucking annoying. She made it so hard for me to want to get to the Benizakura movie because I just did not want to deal with any of her. ever. On a much lighter note, moving up in the world to number 6, I have Honkai Impact 3rd Chapter 23, the solo stage. And this kind of ties back into what I was talking about earlier with Fuhua, where I think that Zila's concept of having this Herrscher personality within her was handled a lot better personally. I liked seeing the Zila and her growth. It was really great throughout pretty much the entire thing, and her dynamic with the actual Zila was also just really fun, and the way that they bounce off of one another was really great. The whole domination theater was interesting. The puppets themselves weren't super deep or complex, but they were fun, and I liked the mystery surrounding them. And the whole small scene where Bronya was confiding to Welt about the Welt Joyce that was in her dreams, I really like that entire segment with her and Welt. I thought that was really great. To be completely honest, this is basically what I look for in a good Honkai Impact 3rd chapter. It had fun moments, it had sad moments, and the general level of quality was pretty consistent throughout the entire thing. This is not an amazing chapter of Honkai Impact 3rd, but it was a really damn good one. Moving over to number 5, we have the Black Shores arc in Wuthering Waves. This is the best mainline arc in Wuthering Waves. But I still personally liked the Chong-Li character quest better, but that's just a personal thing. I also think that Chong-Li was a better character than Shorekeeper, but I'm not here to debate all that. Let's talk about Shorekeeper for a minute. I'm going to be so honest with you guys. I found her to be a little bit overhyped for me. Still a really damn good character, just a bit overhyped. I do think that the dynamic between Shorekeeper and Rover was actually really, really great, and I love the way that they were able to tie in Shorekeeper's current lore relevance to the Rover's past. I thought that was really cool, and getting to uncover more of the Rover's past was genuinely interesting. I loved it a lot, actually. And in talking about Wuthering Waves in a more broad scope, I really liked the cool little, like, gadgets and gizmos you get. And you got a portal gun in this. That was sick. I really enjoyed solving the puzzles with the portal gun. I thought that was really fun. And also, the colors on this game are just fucking gorgeous. Genuinely, whoever crafts the color palette for this game needs a raise. It's such a fucking beautiful game. But diving back into the story for a quick second, the quote from the Shorekeeper of, "I am the guardian of the Black Shores. I was created for this purpose." GOAT. Great scene. And also for my Project Moon enjoyers, because we're going to be talking about Project Moon in a moment, if you ever wonder who the Shorekeeper is, think Angela, but without her crashing out and making Library of Ruina happen. And again, talking about Project Moon, Kanto 3. Faust was on demon time immediately from the very beginning. I don't know why, but she was just so snippy the entire time, and I thought that was fucking hilarious and great. The Don Quixote outburst towards the start, I didn't like. I find Don Quixote to be pretty fucking annoying, I'm going to be honest with you. But immediately after this, we did get the scene between Don Quixote and Virgilius with the whole deal scene, and I'm honestly really excited to see what that's all about once I get to, I assume Kanto 7 is where it's going to become relevant since it's Don Quixote's Kanto. But I actually really enjoyed that scene. I liked that when they started driving towards the place, Sinclair showed us that it's his arc by being scared as shit and wanting to run away. But I do think that once we actually get there, splicing up Sinclair's previous memories with combat encounters in game was actually really well executed here. And Cromer, what a fucking ride. The scene of, "Well, you are my hero, Sinclair," was just, what the fuck? And her entire dynamic with Sinclair was pretty fun, to be completely honest. I really like their dynamic. I really like how fucking twisted Cromer is. Like, Homegirl got it bad, bro. And honestly, the boss fight with Cromer was really fun. I thought that the beginning of it was super easy, and then second phase happened, and it wasn't super hard either at that point. But I did like that it wasn't just some pushover boss. What I didn't like so much was that Damien came at the end, and I was just like, why? I don't understand. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Sinclair here, who was fine. I really don't know exactly how I feel about Sinclair. Sinclair is basically the worst good sinner so far, in my opinion. He's my least favorite out of the sinners that I give a shit about so far, which is a real shame because I wanted him to be better than he is, but he's not, in my opinion. So I'm going to make this one short because it makes me upset that I put this high. At number 3, I have Cooking with Valkyries. How, dude? How is a gag spin-off manga this fucking peak? Some of these panels are fucking insane. I love the panel that I used for the image that you can see on screen. I love that panel. How the fuck is it in this goofy ass cooking spin-off gag manga for Honkai Impact 3rd? Please somebody make this make sense. This manga can legitimately serve as a cookbook because there are recipes in it. How? Like, fucking how, dude? It had super emotionally charged scenes. It was super fun throughout. And the best part is that it didn't overstay its welcome. It's a pretty short manga that has some really fun scenes, some really sad scenes, some really great references, and how the fuck is it a spin-off gag manga when you have panels like the one that you're seeing on screen? This shit is so good. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But Cooking with Valkyries is genuinely so good. And if you have read Honkai Impact 3rd and you have not read this manga, please go read it so that I know that I'm not alone. The passion is going to die out right now because I'm so tired. At number 2, I have Alien Stage. And Alien Stage is such a unique concept. Basically, think The Promised Neverland, but idol concert, where essentially in this world aliens take over and they essentially do what they do with The Promised Neverland, where they are raised in these facilities, except this time instead of just being raised to be eaten like on farms, where instead of being raised to be food, they are raised to be death game participants in a tournament of song. Speaking of song, the songs Black Sorrow and Ruler of My Heart were my personal favorites. My favorite episode was round 6, and I also just realized that I haven't even told you what it really is. This is actually a YouTube series. The entire thing can be seen in like an hour, I think. I don't know, I binged it all in one sitting, so it's definitely doable. But there are also some comics that you can find afterwards, and I'm about to say something insane. Here's the thing, I am a guy. I'm a dude. Just a dude. I do not like yaoi media. It's just not something I'm particularly looking for in media. But, dude, they actually had a peak-ass yaoi scene, bro. The quote, "Thank you for being a victim of my shallow emotions." It was so good. And it was a fucking yaoi. Ivan the fucking goat. Finally, at number 1, the best piece of media that I consumed this month is unsurprisingly from Honkai Impact 3rd. You know it had to be the case. Chapter 22, Me and Myself. This is the final part of the Fuhua arc, and to be completely honest, before I even get into the nerdy shit, the gameplay is actually really stand out for me because I do not generally enjoy the Honkai Impact 3rd gameplay loop, but I actually did enjoy the gameplay here. The boss fight towards the end of the chapter was also really fun, and having that little chain sequence was really neat as well. I personally, when I was playing through it, I had this really climactic ending where I damn near lost on the boss, but I barely clutched up. I think that the reuse of previous fights were also really well executed here. But let's get into the nerd shit now. The story. Fuhua did not actually move me all that much. To be completely transparent with you guys, I can appreciate her character and what it attempted to do, but I personally wasn't super moved. I really love the idea that they portray her internal conflict in an external way. I think that's great. I think that the concept of having this immortal being be corrupted by the Honkai only for the Honkai to be kind of overloaded because fucking immortal, I think that's really cool too. And what people are not expecting is, despite this being the Fuhua arc, despite 3 chapters centering around Fuhua, my favorite character in this arc was Kiana. And she's my favorite Honkai Impact 3rd character right now. But the final cutscene, but Kiana did move me. The final few cutscenes here were genuinely really great, particularly Kiana's presence within those. I thought that it was genuinely amazing. Overall, this was a really great chapter, some of the best that Honkai Impact 3rd has had to offer, even if it didn't really move me as much personally. That's it. That's all 21 pieces of media that I consumed in March 2025. Lord save my soul. Please don't, please don't consume this much. I will say that for April, the current plans are that I will finish Utawari Rumono, The Mask of Truth. I am currently reading through Kono Ototomare, which I actually binge read like 30 chapters today at the time of this recording. So I'm hoping to finish that in April as well. I'll probably get down another season of Red vs. Blue as well as another arc of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. And then Honkai Impact 3rd, as you guys saw, plagued a lot of this list. That won't be the case next time. I will be reading through chapters 24 and 25. And after that point, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from Honkai Impact 3rd before I come back, whenever that may be. But expect all of those things to probably be on the April Media Mosaic video. But that's about all I've got for you guys for now. So, as always, take care, y'all.